Okay, welcome to another episode of Curtain Call Conversations. I'm here today with Rebecca Manley. Now, she's the writer of the National Youth Theatre's Ada, which is a brand new production, and I'll let Rebecca tell us all about it. But firstly, how are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. Yes,
Good.
nice. I'm here to be a disembodied head mainly, but I'm in a strange sort of phone booth at my co-working space in Brighton, so it's slightly odd lighting.
That's quite all right. So this new piece of writing that you've done for the National Youth Theatre, Ada. So tell us all about it.
So as the title suggests, it's about a woman called Ada, and it's Ada Lovelace, who is she's known as the world's first computer programmer, and
Okay.
she basically kind of invented computer in sort of general terms. Some mathematicians might question this, but she kind of invented computer code about 100 years before we had computers. She was a kind of incredible mathematician, and she worked with a guy called Charles Babbage on a machine called the analytical engine, which was kind of a machine that could do things beyond calculations and beyond anything that had happened before, and had lots of a very complex set of code to make it work. It was never actually made, but she was just this incredible woman who was really sort of ahead of her time and had to battle lots of kind of societal constraints and family constraints and illness to do as well as she did. And she died really quite young. But she was just this incredible person. She was the daughter of the poet Lord Byron, and she was brought up by her mum. So she was brought up by a single parent, and her mum was worried that she might inherit some of her dad's kind of poetic sensibilities and kind of wildness. So she had a really strict education and upbringing, but actually, although she was a kind of brilliant academic and thinker, she was also hugely creative. So she kind of combined arts and science. So that's who it's all about. And she's just completely kind of brilliant as a character. So it's based on her.
Amazing. So when you start writing a new piece of theatre, I mean, where do you get your sort of inspiration from? I mean, obviously this person that you've written about here, amazing story there. So how do you find these stories to write about?
Well, this one was really such a gift, because National Youth Theatre kind of approached me and said they wanted to do something about Ada Lovelace, and I've written plays in the past that are about a couple of plays about women scientists. So I love that as a kind of starting point. And so I start with loads of research. And actually, this has been a very long kind of period of kind of development, this piece. So just finding out as much as I possibly can about her life and her work. Yeah. But what was really important for National Youth Theatre and for me is to kind of find residencies for a contemporary audience. So it was really looking at what are the kind of crossovers with her and her experiences with the audience that it's aimed at, which is kind of the transition time between primary and secondary. Right. I mean, it kind of would work for older and younger audiences, but we're really interested in that period of big change for young people. Yeah. So it was looking at the fact that, as I say, she was brought up by a single parent, that she had an absent father, but a famous father. So he loomed quite large in her life, even though he was not around. And it's about, she also was really resistant to being pigeonholed. Right. And so that sense of kind of refusing to be one thing and constantly questioning kind of boundaries and barriers, and really kind of the resilience that she had, and her challenges in her family. It's those kind of crossovers that make me go, that's what makes it interesting for people to watch. So it's digging into all of that, really. Yeah. Sure.
Because obviously some of those themes are relevant now, relevant today. Yeah. So the show opens on the 1st of December. So, I mean, this week, I mean, I can't believe it's December. I mean, it baffles me that we're there already, but
I know, quite.
I know, it's mad. So with regards to the actual show, I mean, are you sort of involved in all of it, or are you just the writer? Do you get involved in
No, I
casting or
am
anything?
just the right. I am absolutely just the writer. So there's a brilliant director called Andrew Wyman who's directing it,
Mhm.
and he's directed a few shows for National Youth Theatre,
Yeah.
and he and I have been working on it from the beginning. So we've been in the kind of room developing the ideas with different groups of actors over the last 3 years. The first time we were working with actors was on Zoom
Right.
during lockdowns. That was interesting.
Yeah.
But I very much handed the script over now, even though we've kind of
Mm.
collaborated up till the beginning of rehearsals. Andy is now in rehearsals. I believe today is in quite a complicated technical rehearsal with them,
Right.
and I've not seen it. Now I mean, I've met all the cast, and I saw the first read through. But Andy is now working his magic with all his team, and they've got an amazing design team, and they're all kind of very busy getting it ready, and I'm just going along to the first dress rehearsal. So
wow. I mean,
I'm quite excited.
what's the feeling like for you, Rebecca, when you sit there and it starts and you're like, wow, this is hard
I
work.
absolutely love it, and actually it's even more exciting if I've not been there for kind of rehearsals, and so I've got no idea what it's going to look like. I've met the cast and I've heard a first read through, but they've all done so much work on kind of characterization, and that it'll just be I find it quite easy to just forget that I had anything to do with it and be just an audience member. So I just love being kind of just watching it and being immersed in it, and then every now and then I think, oh yeah, I had something to do with this, but I just get quite lost in the storytelling. So and they've got such a brilliant group of actors that I'm sure I'll be able to just sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, you've worked with the National Youth Theatre before. I mean, what draws you to that sort of area of theatre?
That's nearly all of the theatre that I've written actually is for young audiences and with young actors. I just love. I'm at the moment I'm doing a lot more writing for screen, but in terms of theatre, it's always been with young people pretty much. I just love especially at National Youth Theatre, they have a really good kind of way of working with young people, of collaborating. It's all about the ensemble. There's no kind of who's the big star of the show going on. They're always very good at thinking about their audience, about what's relevant and interesting and exciting, what the kind of big questions are for young people at the moment. And I think that makes it really exciting for me, because it feels like you're doing something that hopefully an audience can connect to, and it says something to them about their own lives, rather than it being a kind of just a form of escapism. We can ask lots of really kind of brave questions, I think, in theatre. And a young audience and a young cast, I think, are brilliant at kind of really throwing themselves into that. And you are always at National Youth Theatre in the rehearsals, there's so many brilliant contributions from the cast. They don't just turn up and kind of play the part. They're really very much part of the development of the ideas and stuff. And that's what I love about it. It just feels so kind of dynamic and collaborative. Really exciting way to work.
Yeah, it is. I mean, obviously these kids are the next generation of our performers that we'll be seeing on a stage. So for them to get so involved, I think that's just really wonderful, isn't it? And I mean, some could go down the route of perhaps going into writing at some point if the performance doesn't sort of work out for them. I mean, it's a string to the bow, isn't it, really, to have all those
absolutely different. And actually a couple of the cast we have been in a lot of the development through over the last few years with us, and some of them did do some writing, and a couple of them are really strong writers already. So it's a great thing that they get to kind of flex all bits of their kind of storytelling muscles while they're in kind of work with National Youth Theatre.
I mean, I know that you're also a performer yourself. I mean, you've acted in one of the shows that sort of piqued my interest was This Is England. I mean,
what
the show that was. I mean, wow, that was some incredible TV. So when did sort of have you always been a writer and then sort of performing?
No, not at all.
No.
I started as an actor, and I went to drama school and I acted for quite a while, and then it was through working at National Youth Theatre actually that I was doing lots of kind of facilitating and running their courses, and it was somebody who used to do a lot of their community work, Holly Jones, who first asked me to write something for them. And so that got me kind of interested in writing. And I've just gradually kind of moved over. So I hardly ever, I don't do as much performing now. It is pretty much writing. And I think I'm a much better writer than I am actor, to be honest.
I'm sure that's not true.
I was, and if, I mean, This Is England you mentioned was one of my sort of favourite jobs that I did as a performer, and Shane Meadows is incredible, and the whole kind of cast. So work like that, if you're lucky enough to get it, is great. And I would definitely, work with Shane again in a drop of a hat. But writing sort of it's just sort of taken over, and I spend much more of my time doing it now.
I mean, how do you sort of how do you write something from start to finish? It's really interesting to me. How sort of do you just jot down a lot of different ideas? Do you have the ending before you start? I mean, how does it work for you?
I think it's a bit of it sounds like a bit of a cop-out answer, but it really isn't. But each project is so different. So I think I tell you what, I'm not one of those writers who's really organised and knows what's going to happen and then kind of fills in the detail. I quite often just start with something quite small, like an idea of a question or a character, or just one particular thing I want to explore. Or it might be an event, a real event in life that I think that's interesting, sort of the questions it asks us about the world we live in. And then it kind of goes off in a massive kind of in all sorts of mad directions that won't have anything to do with the final thing. And then at some point, usually when somebody who I'm working with says, you need to write the bloody play now, or finish it, it kind of narrows back down again. But there's quite an extensive period of kind of research where I just go off down lots of little kind of alleyways going, oh, that's interesting, and that's interesting.
I mean, do you just work on one project at a time, or do you?
No, I don't know if that's by design or just the way it is, but I think usually I've got sort of 4 or 5 things going on at once. And sometimes it's helpful. They kind of sort of cross-fertilize a little bit. There's sort of a bit of a crossover, but I have to try, I'm not very good at this, and be sort of disciplined and go, right, today is a day, and today is so at the moment I've got sort of 4 TV projects, Ada sort of near the end, and then 1 other theatre project. So they sort of run alongside each other, and I have to be strict with myself and go, you haven't done any work on that one for ages. Well, I say I'm strict, somebody just rings me up and says, where's the thing you told us to give us?
Exactly. And now sort of talking about Ada, going back to that, so when it's up and running, I mean, do you have any sort of artistic license to say, I'd like to actually change that bit, it's not quite what I wanted it to be? Do you get to do that?
I mean, Andy, the director, is really open to that and really likes kind of having creative conversations. Sometimes you don't know till it's kind of up and almost ready, and kind of the shape of it and the design and in the right space. Sometimes it's only then you realise that, oh, actually that bit needs to be over there, or that bit isn't very clear, and I need to get one of the characters to explain that a bit better, or quite often the characters said that already in a different way, so let's cut that bit. So I try not to do it too late, but I imagine, I mean, usually I just think, wow, this is brilliant. How have they made that thing that I just gave them on a few pieces of paper so kind of rich? But when I go to the dress rehearsal in a few days, it might be that I kind of think, oh, we just need to tweak a few bits, but it'll be about the text. It's kind of, that's because that's my thing. The rest of it, I'm always just amazed at how good people are at the job. So it'll be kind of going, wow, that's amazing.
Exactly. I mean, and also when you're writing a story, do you have sort of an idea in your own head how you want it to look visually, or do you just completely hand that over to the director?
No, I think I'm not a very visual person at all, actually. I'm really I'm quite obsessed about words and about the words that we use to sort of usually to hide what we really want to say, or to say something that means something different to what we think it means. So I get quite kind of, I am quite picky about that. So I can get a bit kind of, that shouldn't be an and, that needs to be a, but in terms of the visuals, I defer to people who are much better at that than me. I mean, I kind of give my opinion, and sometimes I think, oh, that works against the tone, but usually I just think that's brilliant. It's kind of better than anything I could have thought of.
Yeah.
And I tend to be more about the emotional connection between the characters, and usually that's around the words that they say or don't say, the silences between them and things like that.
Yeah. Is it set in the current day, this particular piece?
Yeah. So the sort of, because Ada was such a kind of she refused to believe in any kind of barriers, we've got her kind of time traveling basically. So she rocks up on Brighton Beach in 2023, and she meets a modern day character called Amma, who is a 13-year-old girl from Brighton, and they kind of then go on the journey together. And they both don't realise it when they meet, but they both kind of need to meet each other in that moment to learn a lot about themselves and each other. So so it's set present day, but we skip back into Ada's timeline. So we meet Queen Victoria and the Prime Minister of the time, Robert Peel, and lots of kind of weird and wonderful creatures. But then we keep coming back to 2023.
Right. Okay. I mean, it sounds great. I mean, I really hope that it goes well. It's opening, as I say, on the 1st through to the 9th of December at the National Youth Theatre's workshop space. I mean, I did notice on the website that they do some exceptional ticket offers at the National Youth Theatre as well. I mean, it's so wonderful. I mean, they do like pay what you decide. I mean, that's brilliant. We all know theatre's expensive. And it's for a youth theatre. You want as many kids in as possible, I would think.
Absolutely, and I think they've got all sorts of deals on for kind of youth groups, and it's actually going to, after it's done that short run on Holloway Road, it's going to tour schools next year. So brilliant. Hopefully that's a way of getting as many people as possible to see it. But I know that they're keen to for money not to be a barrier to anybody watching it, so it's worth sort of checking out on the website what deals they've got. So
absolutely. I mean, I'll put all the website information on the next slide so people can book their tickets. I really hope it goes well, Rebecca. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Wishing you all the best for future projects as well, and have a lovely Christmas, because we're in that period now.
Oh God, don't say that. That means I've got about 8 projects to finish writing.
No. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.
See you later, Emma.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.